In this video, we're going to look at how we would go about writing to a file. Now, writing to a file is a little bit more complicated than reading from a file. So, just ignore this first line here. I'm going to talk about that after I explain what we're doing in this middle part. The first thing that we're going to need to do is import some things. So, I need my file imported. I needed to import my file output stream, and I also need to import my print stream, and you'll notice they're all part of the IO package. So once I've imported those things, the first thing I do is declare an instance of file, and I call the file constructor and I pass it the path to my file. Now, just like when we were reading from a file, we need to provide the full path to the file that we're writing to. Because I haven't given a path, it is going to look in my BlueJ project folder. And if I open that up, you'll see there's the file there. If we want it anywhere else, we would need to provide the full path. So now I have a file object. I need to create a file output stream. So I create an instance of file output stream, and then I've called it file stream. Then I call the file output stream constructor and I pass it my file. So I've created a file, and now I'm passing it to the constructor of the file output stream. Finally, I need to create an instance of print stream, and I pass my file output stream object to my print stream constructor. So a little bit complicated, but the three steps again: create our file, pass our file to the file output stream, and then pass our file output stream to the print stream. So this is the file we're going to write to it. This is creating a connection to it. And then this is printing to the connection. Think of it like that. Now I need to set my output to the print stream. Normally our output is set to our standard output, which is the console. So anything that gets written to the console. I need to change the place I'm writing to my print stream. So it no longer writes to the console, it writes to the print stream. Then I can just go system out print line and I can print a string. And instead of this getting written to the console like it normally would, it gets written to my print stream because I've set my output to the print stream. So anything I print is now going to that print stream instead of the console. When I am finished, I must close my print stream. So printstream.close. Now going back to the first line and the last line of this method. I have changed my output to a print stream, and then I've closed that print stream. So anything I print after this line, where's it going to go to? I've changed my output to the print stream and I've closed it, so it can't go to the print stream. It also can't go to my console because I have now set my output to the print stream. So that's what this very first line does. Print stream console equals system.out. I'm creating a variable pointing to system.out, to my standard output, which is the console. And I need to do this at the very beginning. Then I can change my output to my print stream that's pointing to my file. And at the very end, here, I set the output back to the console, back to this console print stream object I created in the first line of my method. So I'm basically creating a variable here that points to our standard output, which is the console. Then I write to my file, and then I point the output back to the console. So anything here, if I write some more code and I put a print line statement, it knows where to print it out to. One final thing is you'll see this method says throws exception. And let me just have a look at something here. Sorry. You'll also notice my read file method also throws exception, and I didn't talk about that in the video on reading files, so I apologize for that. So if you had any problems there, I apologize for that because I forgot to mention that in the video on reading files. Anytime that we are writing or reading from a file, we're prone to get errors. What happens if that file is not there? What happens if it's locked by another application? All sorts of things go wrong. So it's prone to throwing errors. So anytime we write to or read from a file, we must either do one of two things. We must handle the error, which we haven't talked about yet, or we must mark the method as throwing an exception. What we're saying is this method does some dangerous things, and it could possibly throw an exception. So if you use this method, you must be prepared to handle that exception. It's a little bit complicated to understand now because we haven't talked about exception handling. But whenever we read to or read from a file or write to a file, we either have to handle any errors that could be thrown, or we must mark the method as possibly throwing an exception. And if I don't have that there, this method will have an error. And we'll see here, unreported exception, must be caught or declared to be thrown. So in this case, I must say that I am throwing an exception, that this method could possibly throw an exception. And we'll see once again, if I remove it, the line that it's concerned about is this one, because we're connecting to a file here. That file might not exist. It might be locked by another application. A lot of things could go wrong there. So just to protect us, we either need to handle that exception straight away or mark our method as possibly throwing an exception. That way, any method calling this method must also handle that exception because we haven't handled it ourselves. And we'll talk more about that when we do some exception handling. So let's actually run this and see what happens. We can see here there's nothing in this file. So I am going to call this method. I will go to my topic 6 here, and I will call write file. Okay, let's have a look at the file now. It's been modified. Do I want to reload it? Yes. There, we've written to the file. So that's how you can write to a file.